The villagers noticed first that Ikenna stopped appearing at the marketplace, where he had once gone every morning to buy palm oil, yam, or a bundle of firewood. The familiar sight of his tall frame was gone, and instead, his hut remained closed from dawn till dusk. The door tied shut as if to keep something in, or perhaps to keep something out. At night, however, whispers began to ripple across the village, for people swore they saw a faint glow of firelight flickering from within his hut. Long after the rest of homes had gone dark, and those who walked near claimed they heard noises. A man's voice speaking softly, followed by a low, muffled reply that no one could quite understand. The chickens that once pecked freely around Ikenna's yard now crossed to the far side of the path, clucking in distress, while goats, normally curious and stubborn, refused to graze anywhere near his walls. Mothers began to draw their children away when passing his hut, warning them not to look too long at the door, for it was said that one child had fainted after glancing that way, and upon walking, described seeing a woman's pale hand lift the curtain before vanishing back into the shadows. Inside, however, the reality was far more dreadful than the whispers outside. Ikenna had placed Adako's body upon his mat, wrapping her carefully in fresh clothes whenever the old ones grew stained or heavy with the smell of decay. He spoke to her constantly, telling her stories of his childhood, of how he remembered her laughter as they cooked by the fire, of the time she had carried him on her back when he was too weak to walk. In his mind, she answered him. In his heart, he believed she still breathed. And as his loneliness deepened, his obsession took a darker turn, for he no longer treated her body as something lifeless, but as a companion, a bride, a forbidden presence he clung to in desperation. Nights became heavier in Umueke. The moon seemed reluctant to shine over the village, often veiled by thick clouds, and the dogs barked without ceasing, their howls echoing into the forests until even the hunters, brave as they were, refused to walk the paths after dusk. One evening, an old woman named Nina, who lived not far from Ikenna, told the others that she had woken to the sound of drums, not the joyous drums of a festival, but slow, mournful beats that seemed to come from deep within the earth. And when she peered through the cracks of her hut, she saw Ikenna dancing in the yard, with a figure wrapped in white clothes, swaying clumsily under the dim light of his fire. She swore on the heads of her grandchildren that it was not a dream, though when the villagers went to check the next morning, the yard was empty and silent, the ground smooth as if no footprints had ever disturbed it. The elders grew concerned, and so they called for a meeting beneath the Iroko tree. They debated what must be done. Some believed Ikenna had fallen into madness, and madness, though tragic, was a burden the family had to bear. But others whispered that his hut had become a dwelling place for spirits, that his mother's soul has not crossed into the land of the ancestors because her body had not been allowed to rest. The oldest elder, Okonkwo, shook his head gravely and said that if such a thing was true, then not only Ikenna, but the entire village stood in danger, for a restless spirit grows hungry, and a hungry spirit does not remain bound to one house for long. Meanwhile, Ikenna himself slipped deeper into the abyss of his own making. His body grew thin, and his skin stretched tightly over his bones. Yet his eyes burned with a feverish devotion as he clutched Adako's corpse in his arms each night. Rocking her gently, he began to adorn her with the beads stolen from the marketplace, with cowries taken from shrines, with wrappers that once belonged to the living women, and he called her my queen, as though she were no longer his mother, but something else entirely. And so, as the days passed, Umueke found itself shrouded in fear, for though the sun still rose and the market still bustled, an invisible shadow hung over the people. The laughter of children grew scarce, and the drums of festivals silent. Even the wind seemed to carry a chill when it blew from the direction of Ikenna's hut. Those who had the courage to pass near it at night returned with trembling voices, speaking of whispers, of shadows moving against the walls, and footsteps pacing when no one was seen. The villagers did not yet know it, but Ikenna's madness was not contained. It was a sickness spreading silently, seeping from his hut into the soil of the village itself. And unless something was done, the silence of one man's grief would soon grow into the silence of an entire village.